For many years, the name Trey Songz was synonymous with desire, commercial success, and absolute dominance in contemporary R&B. His distinctive, deep, and captivating voice won over millions of fans around the world. His on-stage charisma, combined with a carefully crafted image of sensuality and confidence, transformed a once shy young man into one of the most talked about and commercially consumed artists in the music industry. Trey Songz was not just another singer. He represented an era, an aesthetic, a masculine archetype the industry learned to market extremely well. But like so many other meteoric rise stories, there was another side, one that did not appear in music videos, scripted interviews, or brightly lit stages. Behind the lights, the applause, and the songs that topped the charts for years, there was a journey marked by inner conflicts, questionable decisions, problematic behavior, and serious allegations that would completely change the public's perception of who Trey Songz really was. Today, you will learn the full story of the rise and fall of an R&B icon. A narrative that is not just about an artist, but one that exposes deep flaws in a system that repeatedly chooses to protect profit, status, and image, even when that means ignoring clear warning signs. This video is not a judgment. It is a portrait, a careful look at how fame, power, and silence can create invisible monsters for far too long. Trey Songz was born Tremaine Alden Neverson into a reality far removed from the luxury that would later become part of his life. He grew up in a modest family environment marked by financial hardship, emotional instability, and strict rules. His childhood was deeply shaped by the presence of a stepfather with a military background. Discipline was severe. Emotions were not welcome. Showing vulnerability, fear, or insecurity was not part of everyday life. This kind of upbringing taught Trey, from an early age, to suppress his feelings and deal with conflict internally, often in silence. Human behavior specialists point out that environments like this can produce adults who struggle to regulate emotions, accept boundaries, and cope with frustration. In Trey's case, many of these traits would only become visible years later, when his fame had already reached extreme levels. Music emerged as a refuge. Singing was a form of emotional release. It was the one space where he could be vulnerable without being punished for it. His vocal talent began to stand out during adolescence, drawing the attention of people connected to the music world. The initial turning point came when Trey was introduced to an influential mentor in the music industry. That meeting completely changed his trajectory. For the first time, someone saw not only talent, but commercial potential. This mentor played a key role in shaping Trey Songz's artistic identity. From the choice of his stage name to his vocal style and on-camera posture, everything began to be carefully refined. His debut album, I Gotta Make It, was released with moderate expectations. Commercially, its impact was modest. Sales were unimpressive, and the charts did not reflect immediate success. However, music critics saw something different. Many pointed out that despite the project's flaws, there was something genuine in his voice, rare emotional delivery, and a tone that stood out among so many similar artists. It was the beginning of a slow but steady build. After the first album, Trey Songz entered a period of intense learning. He began to better understand how the industry worked, the demands of the market, and, most importantly, the kind of image that sold. Gradually, his music became more confident. His lyrics began to explore sensuality, desire, and emotional power dynamics. This shift was no accident. The industry realized it had a highly profitable product on its hands. Performative masculinity, a dominant posture, and a provocative aesthetic began to define who Trey Songz was to the public, and the public responded. The true turning point came with the release of the album Ready. This project cemented Trey Songz as a global star. His songs dominated radio, digital platforms, and dance floors. Suddenly, he was no longer just a promising artist. He was a phenomenon. His shows began drawing massive crowds. His performances became more intense, bolder, and highly sexualized. The media quickly crowned him the new Prince of R&B, a title that came with expectations, pressure, and constant exposure. This period marked the absolute peak of his career. Awards, Multi-million-dollar contracts, collaborations with major artists, and international recognition became part of his daily life. But behind the scenes, something was beginning to unravel. With extreme success came a sense of invincibility. People close to Trey Songz began to report clear changes in his behavior. Outbursts of anger became more frequent. Criticism was poorly received. The need for control increased. He wanted to dominate environments, people, and situations. The album Passion, Pain, and Pleasure reflected this internal state. While praised for its musical quality, its lyrics revealed deep emotional conflicts. Themes of possession, dominance, and suffering became recurring. Fame, which once seemed like an achievement, began to reveal its most destructive side. Over time, the problem stopped being mere backstage rumors and began to unfold publicly. One of the most striking episodes occurred during a show in Detroit. In the middle of the performance, Trey Songz completely lost emotional control. The incident was recorded, quickly went viral, and ended with his arrest. For many fans, it was a shocking moment. The carefully constructed image began to crumble. For the first time, the confident, sensual artist gave way to an unstable and unpredictable figure. Even so, the industry moved on. Releases continued. Shows were maintained. The warning signs were ignored. The landscape changed dramatically when the Me Too movement gained global momentum. In that context, actress and singer Keke Palmer made a public allegation involving Trey Songz. She stated that she had been intimidated and that the artist had allegedly recorded images without her consent. Her account was direct, serious, and impossible to ignore. The reaction was immediate. Her statement broke a barrier of silence that had seemed impenetrable. Soon after, other women began sharing similar experiences. Reports of abusive behavior, coercion, and intimidation started to surface more frequently. What once seemed like an isolated case began to reveal a troubling pattern. Influencers, fans, and industry professionals described experiences that followed a similar line. These accounts raised an uncomfortable question. How many of these situations were ignored over the years because Trey Songz was simply too profitable to confront? The culture of silence within the music industry began to be more intensely questioned. In 2018, Andrea Bura accused Trey Songz of physical assault. The case received widespread media coverage and further deepened the crisis surrounding his public image. Shortly afterward, a lawsuit was filed by a woman identified as Jane Doe, alleging sexual assault and negligence. According to the lawsuit, record label executives were aware of the artist's problematic behavior and failed to act. This accusation introduced a new dimension to the narrative. It was no longer just about one individual, but about an entire system that chose silence. As allegations accumulated, the industry began to distance itself. Some artists spoke out publicly. Others chose not to comment. Show invitations dropped sharply. Collaborations were canceled. The name Trey Songz became more associated with controversy than with music. The silence that once protected him now isolated him. Trey Songz's fall was not sudden. It was gradual, painful, and public. Today, his career is remembered both for the hits that defined a generation and for the accusations that sparked important debates about power, accountability, and impunity. His story became a warning, a reminder that talent and fame should never serve as shields for harmful behavior. As Trey Songz accumulated success, money, and influence, he also experienced a common phenomenon among celebrities who rise too fast: disconnection from reality. Surrounded by teams, fans, and people invested in keeping his approval, he lived in a bubble where boundaries were rarely enforced. Psychologists who study public figures explain that the absence of clear consequences can create a sense of permissiveness. When everything is tolerated, normalized, or justified, individuals begin to lose their sense of what is acceptable. In Trey Songz's case, many reports suggest this sense of impunity grew over time. Constant fame also amplifies existing traits. Characteristics like a need for control, difficulty handling frustration, and emotional outbursts, when combined with power and unrestricted access, tend to worsen. Trey Songz' trajectory exposes a recurring practice within the entertainment industry. When an artist generates significant profit, problematic behavior is often ignored, minimized, or hidden. Executives, managers, and even colleagues frequently choose silence out of fear of financial loss, brand damage, or the collapse of multi-million-dollar contracts. This unspoken pact creates an environment where victims feel discouraged from speaking out. For years, rumors circulated behind the scenes about Trey Songz' inappropriate behavior. Yet nothing seemed sufficient to interrupt his rise. This pattern is not unique to him, but part of a broader system that prioritizes commercial results over ethical responsibility. Trey Songz' story inevitably recalls other artists who also faced abrupt downfalls after serious allegations. These cases show that the problem is not limited to isolated individuals, but to a structure that repeatedly enables it. In many of these situations, warning signs were present early on. Public incidents, informal reports, and erratic behavior were treated as artistic eccentricities rather than real alarms. This normalization of excess allowed situations to escalate over time, resulting in deep harm to victims, careers, and the credibility of the industry itself. The media plays an ambiguous role in these narratives. During an artist's peak, it helps build idealized images and reinforce seductive stereotypes. When allegations arise, it often oscillates between sensationalism and strategic silence. The public is also part of this machinery. Uncritical consumption, extreme idolization, and unconditional defense of public figures help perpetuate harmful behavior. Questioning idols is not automatic cancellation. It is an exercise in collective responsibility. One aspect often overlooked in these stories is the profound impact on those who come forward. Beyond emotional trauma, many face public attacks, disbelief, and isolation. By speaking out, these women confronted not only a famous artist, but an entire system prepared to discredit them. The psychological and social cost of these accusations is high and long-lasting. Recognizing this impact is essential to understanding the seriousness of the case and the importance of more responsible public discourse. With the accumulation of allegations, lawsuits, and testimonies, Trey Songz' public image suffered nearly irreversible damage. Even attempts at artistic comeback were met with resistance. Platforms, brands, and event organizers began avoiding direct associations. The artist who once dominated magazine covers now faced a lack of invitations and fading relevance. The silence that once protected him became a void difficult to fill. The discussion surrounding Trey Songz raises a recurring question. Can the art be separated from the artist? Musically, he left significant contributions to modern R&B. His songs influenced a generation and helped shape the sound of an era. However, his moral legacy remains stained by serious allegations that cannot be ignored. This duality makes his story even more complex. The story of Trey Songz should not be seen merely as the fall of a famous artist. It represents a warning about what happens when power, fame, and silence converge. It exposes the urgent need for structural change within the entertainment industry. More transparency, more accountability, and less blind idolization. Until those changes occur, stories like this will continue to repeat themselves. Now, the reflection is yours. To what extent should we protect idols in the name of entertainment? When does silence stop being neutrality and become complicity? Leave your opinion in the comments. Like the video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications to follow more deep, investigative, and necessary stories like this one.